They ignored me for years. Then they found out I had $12 million, and suddenly, I was the most popular person at Thanksgiving. I'm a 2-year-old guy. And if this were on Reddit, it would probably be titled something like, Ada, for refusing to share my $12 million with my family after they ignored me my whole life? Growing up, I was never the favorite. Not even close. I have an older sister, Emily, who's 35. She was always the star of the show. The straight-up A kid, the cheerleader, the one in all the photos on the wall. My parents practically built a personality cult around her. If Emily got a B+, it was unfair grading. If I got an A, it was good, that's what you're supposed to do. If Emily wanted piano lessons, they found the money. If I wanted a cheap used guitar, they told me to save up my own allowance. Family dinners were basically the Emily show. What's Emily doing? How's Emily's boyfriend? How's Emily's job? Meanwhile, I could have cured a minor disease, and my dad would have said, "That's nice. Hey, Em, how's your new apartment?" To be clear, Emily wasn't some cartoon villain. She was just used to being the center of the universe. If I tried to talk, she'd interrupt. If I did something cool, she barely looked up from her phone. And my parents always took her side. In high school, when it came time for college, my parents told both of us they'd help however they could. For my sister, that meant paying most of her tuition at a private university out of state and helping with rent. For me, that meant good luck. My dad literally said, "You're good with computers, right? You'll figure something out. Maybe community college? Then transfer. You're more independent than your sister anyway." Translation: we're going to prioritize Emily and assume you'll survive somehow. So that's what I did. I survived somehow. I went to community college while working 35 hours a week at a grocery store. I transferred to a state school once I could afford it. I took out loans in my own name. I learned to live cheap because I had no other option. Along the way, I got really into coding and finance. I started freelancing as a developer, building websites and small apps for local businesses. I also started reading everything I could about investing stocks, index funds, later a bit of crypto and startups. Nobody in my family cared. If Emily got an internship, there was a celebratory dinner. When I landed my first full-time job as a software engineer, my mom texted "nice" and sent a thumbs-up emoji. That was it. It became very clear that in my parents' eyes, my job, my life, my achievements were just background noise. Then, around 25, a few big things happened. First, I got hired at a small but fast-growing tech company. My salary wasn't insane, but they offered stock options. Most people ignore those, but I didn't. I paid attention. Second, I cut my expenses to the bone. Tiny apartment, old car, no fancy vacations. I saved and invested almost everything I could. Every bonus, every freelance check, every tax refund went straight into index funds, my 401k, and some higher-risk stuff I actually researched and understood. Third, my company did really well. Over a few years, those stock options went from fun little extra to, oh, this is serious money. Then the company went public. Overnight, on paper, I went from guy with a decent savings account to guy who could retire if he wanted to. I remember refreshing my investment app the day of the IPO and seeing the number cross 7 figures, then 8. The total value of my investments across everything company stock, other stocks, funds, some very lucky bets crept up to around $12 million over the next year as the market stayed strong. $12 million. To be very clear, I did not win the lottery. I did not inherit it. I did not commit a crime. I worked my ass off for years, lived way below my means, took risks that I fully understood, and got lucky with timing. And I told exactly 0 people in my family. Why? Because I knew exactly how that conversation would go. These are the same people who couldn't be bothered to attend my graduation, who never asked about my job unless it was to compare it to Emily's, who once joked at Thanksgiving that I'd probably live in a basement coding forever. I had no reason to believe they'd suddenly be happy for me in a healthy, supportive way. I had every reason to believe they'd see dollar signs and start talking about what family does for each other. So, I kept it to myself. I still drove my 10-year-old Toyota. I still wore the same cheap clothes. I still showed up to holidays with a humble side dish and let them talk over me. On the outside, I was the quiet, nerdy little brother who's probably doing fine but who really knows. On the inside, I was financially set for life. For a while, I was actually okay with that secret double life. I had my own apartment, a couple of close friends who did know about my situation, and hobbies I loved. My family didn't really know me, but that had been true for a long time. Then last Thanksgiving happened, and my $12 million secret accidentally walked into the middle of dinner. My parents host Thanksgiving at their house every year. It's a big thing, relatives, neighbors, way too much food. Even though my relationship with them is polite at best, I still go. Partly out of habit, partly because I like seeing a few extended family members I actually get along with. Last year, I decided to bring my laptop with me because I had some work to finish for a small side project. And honestly, I knew there would be plenty of time when nobody would notice whether I was fully present or not. That's how it usually goes. I showed up around noon with a pumpkin pie I'd bought, not baked. My mom greeted me with a quick, "Oh good, you're here. Put that on the counter. Can you move your car so your sister can park in the driveway?" No, how are you? No hug. Just logistics. Emily showed up half an hour later with her husband and their 2 kids. My parents literally clapped when they walked in. Everyone rushed to help with her bags, her kids, her coat. I stood in the kitchen doorway and watched the scene. Same movie, different year. The first couple of hours went like they always do. My mom and aunt banged around in the kitchen. My dad watched football with Emily's husband. Emily held court in the living room, telling stories about her high-pressure marketing job and how exhausted she was juggling work and motherhood. At some point, I slipped into the den with my laptop to check on something. One of the companies I'd invested in was going through some volatility, and I wanted to see if a limit order had triggered. I logged into my brokerage account, checked the numbers, adjusted nothing, and then got called away to help set the table. Here's where I made my mistake. I didn't fully close the browser tab. I just shut the laptop lid, assuming it would lock. Spoiler, it didn't. Fast forward about an hour. Dinner's almost ready. Kids are running around. People are filling their plates with appetizers. I'm in the dining room putting out napkins when I hear my sister's voice from the den. What is this? Her tone was loud enough that the whole room went quiet for a second. I walked over and saw Emily standing next to the desk, my laptop open in front of her. On the screen, in big, bold numbers, was my portfolio summary page. Right at the top, total net worth, $12, 020-XXX. The exact number doesn't matter. The 12M part did. My stomach dropped. I said, probably a little too sharply, "Why are you on my laptop?" She didn't answer that. Instead, she turned the screen slightly and called out, "Mom? Dad? Did you know your quiet little coder brother is apparently a multi-millionaire?" People actually laughed at first. They thought she was joking. My dad called back from the kitchen. "Yeah, right. He barely talked when he got here. I doubt he's secretly rich." Emily said, "I'm serious. Come look at this." Within seconds, there was a small crowd around the desk. Emily, my parents, my aunt, a couple of cousins craning their necks. My mom squinted at the screen and read the number out loud. $12 million? The room went dead silent. Then everyone looked at me. My dad was the first to speak. "Is this some kind of prank?" I took a slow breath. There was no point lying this wasn't Photoshop. My brokerage firm's logo was right there. "It's not a prank," I said. "And you had no right to open my laptop." Emily scoffed. "It was already open. I just tapped the spacebar. Don't change the subject. Why do you have $12 million? The way she said it like I'd stolen it from her purse instantly put me on the defensive. I said, "Because I've been working and investing for the last 10 years? Because my company did really well? Because I live cheap and don't treat money like a toy?" My mom put a hand to her chest dramatically. "Why didn't you tell us? We're your family." I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. "You're kidding, right?" My dad's face darkened. "What's that supposed to mean?" I looked around at all of them. "It means you've never been interested in anything about my life unless you could compare it to Emily's. Why would I share something this personal with people who barely remember what I do for a living?" A cousin in the back muttered, "Damn," under his breath. Emily shook her head. "So you've just been sitting on $12 million while we're all out here struggling? That's messed up." That line hit me hard. Emily and her husband both work full-time, live in a perfectly nice house, get plenty of help from my parents with childcare, and constantly go on weekend trips. "Struggling is not the word I'd use." I replied, "I've been sitting on it because it's my retirement, my safety net, my future, not a piñata for other people to whack open." That's when my dad shifted gears. He went from shocked to opportunistic. He put on his reasonable father voice and said, "Look, okay, this is a lot to take in, but think about what this means for the family. We've all had a tough few years. Your sister and her husband are drowning in daycare costs. We're still paying off some debts. It's only fair that you help out now that you're comfortable." My mom nodded quickly. Exactly. No one is saying it's not your money, but family helps family. You could change all of our lives. There it was. Less than 5 minutes after learning I had money. They were already mentally spending it. Emily crossed her arms. Honestly, it feels kind of shady that you kept it a secret. We're supposed to be close. How long have you had this? I said, years. And we're not close. You talk at me about your life. That's not the same thing. She ignored that and went straight for guilt. Do you have any idea how much mom and dad sacrificed for us, and you're just hoarding millions? My dad jumped on that. She's right. We didn't have much growing up, but we always put food on the table. We helped you with college when we could. We gave you a roof over your head. You wouldn't be where you are without us. Let me translate that. We did the bare minimum expected of parents, sometimes less, and now that you're successful on your own, we feel entitled to a cut. I felt something in me snap. I'd always assumed this would happen if they found out, but watching it play out in real time in front of extended family was surreal. I said, you helped Emily with college. You paid most of her tuition. You helped with her rent. For me, you told me to figure it out. So I did. On my own, with my own loans, my own jobs, my own risks. You don't get to rewrite history now that there's a comma in my net worth. The air in the room got heavy. People exchanged awkward glances. A couple of cousins suddenly found the ceiling very interesting. My mom tried a softer approach. We're not asking for everything, just something. You have more than you could ever need. Your niece and nephew could finally have their own rooms. We could fix up the house. Your father could retire early. Isn't that what family does, lifts each other up? My heart was pounding. Because here's the thing. Part of me does believe in helping people you love if you're able, but another part of me remembered every ignored achievement. Every time they made it clear I was a distant second place. Every holiday where I was treated like an afterthought. And now, suddenly, I was important because I was worth 8 figures. They weren't happy for me. They were hungry. At that moment, I realized Thanksgiving had turned into a referendum on whether I owed my estranged family millions of dollars just because we share DNA. I took a breath, looked around the room, and decided I wasn't going to roll over and say, sure, take what you want. So I said the words that really set everything on fire. I'm not giving anyone here a single cent. You could practically hear the record scratch when I said it. I'm not giving anyone here a single cent. My mom gasped like I'd slapped her. How can you say that? After everything we've done for you? Emily's husband muttered, man, that's cold, under his breath. My dad's face turned bright red. Watch your tone. We're just having a conversation. Nobody's asking you to empty your accounts. But you're sitting on $12 million while your own parents and sister are busting their asses to get by. Don't you feel any responsibility? I said, as evenly as I could, I feel responsible for myself and the life I've built. Nobody here helped me study at 3 a.m. so I could pass my exams. Nobody here sat with me when I was learning to code. Nobody here helped me when I was working 2 jobs and going to school full-time. Nobody here was interested when I started investing, or when my company went public. You can't ignore all of that and then suddenly show up at the finish line with your hand out. One of my uncles quietly said, he's got a point, but my dad shot him a look that shut him up. Emily stepped closer, eyes blazing. So what? You're just going to sit there and say screw you to your family? We're not strangers. We grew up together. You think you just magically became successful? Who do you think raised you? I looked at her. You mean the people who drove 3 hours for your internship presentation but couldn't be bothered to come to my graduation? The ones who know every detail about your job but still can't remember my job title? Those people? She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I continued, I'm not saying you're evil. I'm saying you've made it very clear, for a very long time, that I'm not important to you unless I'm useful. And now, apparently, I'm very useful. My mom started crying, the martyr tears. You have no idea how hurtful this is. We always loved you. You were just more independent. Emily needed us more. I'd heard some version of that line my whole life. I said, you keep calling neglect independence. I didn't need you less. You just paid less attention. That's not the same thing. The room was dead silent again. One of my younger cousins, maybe 18 or 19, piped up from the doorway. Honestly, it does kind of seem like you all only care now because there's money. His mom hissed at him to be quiet, but the damage was done. My dad realized he was losing the room, so he went nuclear. If you're really going to be this selfish, he said, voice low and shaking with anger, then maybe you don't belong at this table. Maybe you don't belong in this family at all. There it was, the ultimatum. Not, we're proud of you. Not, how did you do it? were impressed. Not even, can we talk about this privately later? Just, pay up or get out. I felt something weirdly peaceful settle over me. Because the truth is, I'd already felt like I didn't belong in this family for years. This was just the first time anyone said it out loud. I nodded slowly. Okay, if that's how you feel, I'll make this very simple. I looked around the room and said, I'm not your bank. I'm not your retirement plan. I'm not your emergency fund. I'm your son, your brother, your cousin, whether you've treated me like one or not. My money is mine. If I ever choose to help someone, it'll be because I genuinely want to, not because I was guilt-tripped into it or threatened with being disowned. My mom sobbed louder. My dad stood there, jaw clenched, saying nothing. Emily sneered. You'll regret this when you're old and alone and nobody wants anything to do with you. I almost laughed. You mean like now? Except without the part where everyone suddenly loves me because they saw a big number on a screen? I closed my laptop, picked it up, and said, I'm going to go. Happy Thanksgiving. No one tried to stop me. One aunt called out, text me when you get home, in this sad little voice, but that was it. I walked out to my beat-up Toyota, put the laptop on the passenger seat, and just sat there for a minute, hands on the wheel, heart racing. Then I started the car and drove home. On the way, the text started. My mom. I can't believe you'd humiliate us like that in front of everyone. My dad. You are ungrateful and selfish. Don't bother coming back if this is who you are now. Emily, enjoy your money. Hope it keeps you warm when you have no family left. I didn't reply to any of them. Over the next few days, something interesting happened. A few relatives reached out separately. One cousin called and said, I had no idea you were doing so well, man. That's awesome. They shouldn't have reacted like that. Another aunt messaged, we always knew they favored Emily. I'm sorry it blew up like that, but I'm proud of you for standing your ground. I also got a surprisingly thoughtful email from my younger cousin, the one who spoke up. He said, you don't owe anyone anything. If I ever end up where you are someday, I hope I remember this. As for my immediate family, we're basically no contact now. My parents sent a half-hearted we're willing to talk if you've calmed down message around Christmas, which was really just code for, we're hoping you've changed your mind about giving us money. I didn't respond. Emily posted a vague Facebook status about greedy people who forget where they came from, which a few relatives liked. I blocked her. I won't pretend it doesn't hurt. It does. I didn't get rich so I could cut my family off. I would have loved to be able to celebrate my success with parents who were genuinely happy for me. Maybe help them out a bit because I wanted to, not because they demanded it. But that's not the family I have. The family I have watched me struggle, ignored most of my milestones, and then, the second they found out I had money, treated me like an ATM with emotions that didn't matter. So here I am. They ignored me for years, then found out I had $12 million at Thanksgiving, and suddenly I was the most important person in the room until I said no. Now, I'm trying to build a life where people value me for who I am, not what my bank account says. Do I sometimes wonder if I was too harsh? Sure. Part of me asks, could I have thrown them a bone, paid off a small debt, given something just to keep the peace? But then I remember the look in their eyes when they realized how much money I had. It wasn't pride. It wasn't joy. It was entitlement. And that's not something I'm willing to reward. So what do you think? Am I the asshole for refusing to give my family any of my $12 million after they ignored me for years and only started caring once they found out I was rich? Or was drawing a hard boundary the only way to keep from being used? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you like stories like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more Reddit-style family drama and money stories.